put my phone on silent. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our BingeBooks April chat. I am so excited to be joined today by E.L. James, and we are going to be talking all about 50 Shades of Grey, all about her career journey, and answering your questions. So welcome to all of the readers who are joining us today, and welcome, Erica. It is so fantastic to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
And today is a really special day, and I'm so excited that this is the day that we chose for this chat because it is the official 10-year anniversary for 50 Shades of Grey, releasing, I guess, like the original publication date.
It was the original date that Random House took the books over from the previous publisher. So yes.
And to commemorate, you have a special edition, 10th anniversary edition, which
I do.
Has one, yeah. And does that release today, actually?
It releases on Tuesday, I think. Okay. It's a limited edition. It's all gutted up and smart.
Can you kind of show us a little bit inside?
Yeah, sure. So
it's really beautiful.
It's so pretty. This is how it looks on the outside.
Is it a little metallic, kind of?
Yes. It's shiny and it's all this kind of thing. So then on the inside, we had some fun with the end pages. So we went a bit sort of kind of romantic and gorgeous. And on the back, we've got this one, which, we had to put it in, really.
Oh, I love that.
So, and it's got its own little silver tie because that's so important. So yeah, it was fun. It was really good fun revisiting all of this, and I've done a sort of minor edit as well because and I wish we'd done this in 2012, but never mind. And yeah, it's I'm really pleased with how it looks. It's got sprayed edges and all that kind of stuff.
Signed and unsigned, so readers can actually get a signed copy at booksamillion.com. Do you still have?
Yes, I think we do, and also Premier Collectibles, and Premier Collectibles will ship all over the world. So if you're that desperate.
Yeah, and I ordered my signed copy from Books A Million, I think day before yesterday, and they already shipped it. I got the shipment notification.
Oh,
so I was
that's lovely.
Yeah, I'll probably get it on
Tuesday.
Much. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. And tell us about that cover because you have a hand in.
Oh yes, yeah. No, we were BingeBooks have very kindly my new publisher, they've been involved and said, they wanted to do a special edition. And I said, let's do one. And they'd come up with lots of concepts of things around the tie and what have you. And I just thought, no, we can move away from this. So, I was driving back from Cornwall, which is a wonderful place in the west of the UK. And I came up with this. I actually kept it. Let's see if you can see it. This is sort of a flogger and 50 Shades of Grey. This is how good my drawing is. Not good at all. And I sat and I just designed. I've got about 40 different versions, and this is the one we went with. And I'm just
remarkably close to the sketch, though.
It's like, I don't know. This is the book. This is the movie. That's what I'd say.
And how big is that? It's bigger than a normal book. Is it? It's not 6x9, is it?
It's. Do you know what? I'll tell you what. I've got my Kings and Queens of England ruler here. So because it's from school. So yeah. So William I, 1066. Is that inches or centimeters? It's 6.5 by that's all the interesting by 5.5 inches. Whatever that is, I actually don't know.
5.5. Yeah, so it's smaller than That's beautiful. And someone said I like the frame around the YouTube screen. We tried to coordinate it all today, so. So I love that. So how is this book interior wise? You said you cleaned it up a little bit.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes. It needed a little bit of an edit, so I've done that. I wrote a foreword, and we put a very small bit of bonus material at the back, but it's tiny little bit of something, which was fun to do. But yeah, it was just really great revisiting the story and and doing this, and I mean, it took a couple of weeks, so it was it was nice revisiting. I mean, I hadn't read the book since 2015.
That was going to be
So
my next question. Did you last read it when you were doing the script? Is that
no. When we made the film, I didn't have a great time making 50 Shades of Grey, and I came off of that and thought, right, and I sat down and read the book and wrote Grey. so, and I had actually put a chapter, you know, in the end of 50 Shades Freed, sort of in Christian's point of view, and people said, "Oh, can we have this? Can we have this?" And I never thought I'd do it, but I just was desperate to reconnect the characters after the movie, so I wrote Grey, and then I had to write Dark.
Yeah, you
they're all done now.
This one. So can we dive into that for a minute? So because I'm a writer, but I've never written from a different point of view. So did you learn more about Christian as you wrote Grey, or was he already so fully formed in your mind?
He was fully formed, having written all 3 books. But there were certain aspects of his character that came out while I was writing Grey and Dark. I mean, his relationship with his parents, his relationship with his siblings as well. That was a surprise to me, and I do like it when your characters surprise you. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same.
It's like, sometimes good and sometimes bad.
Sometimes not so good. Yes, absolutely. I'm a complete pantster, so it's interesting, and it's the last 4 books I've written, so all of his side, and also the Mister. I wrote a version of that a long time ago. I think in 2008, 2009, and I've had this sort of blueprint to go on, and so it's been interesting. I'm now writing the second book after the Mister, and I don't have a blueprint. It's like, oh, it's kind of going back to that kind of thing, which is quite interesting. But the thing about Christian is I had to work out what he did for a living. I'd written 4 or 5 lines throughout 50 Shades of Grey. I think, oh Christ, what does he do? So that was kind of fun.
That's a good point. It didn't even stand out to me though when reading. Like it didn't. I don't know. I didn't question it.
No, absolutely. And what did help is that when we did the film, Universal wanted a website for.
Like a fake website for
we put up a website, we did all of this thing, and my husband and I wrote that together, and it was really useful having that to inform what Christian actually did for a living. It was very funny, and I still have all the assets for it. The website's no longer up, but I have all the assets, and it's quite handy, and it was so sharp. I mean, Universal were fantastic with marketing. Yeah. And they just did all of this stuff, which was very, very clever.
So when you had an opportunity, so you wrote and published 3 books, and then obviously they blew up, and you had this whirlwind. But then when you wrote the 3 books from Christian's point of view, were there certain things after you published the trilogy that you were like, man, I wish I'd done something different? And then those 3 books allowed you to kind of maybe fill in some areas, or you were already locked?
I think so. There was a little bit of that. I mean, people were very surprised that this woman didn't have a computer, and I just, it's interesting that there are some people who just aren't as wealthy as me either. Yeah. It was like, oh, she doesn't have a computer, and I'm thinking. So in the film, she breaks hers. So we've sorted that out in that. I can't think of anything else. I do wish I'd split them up for longer. That's the only thing that I can tell you for sure. I'd wish there'd been another few weeks of torture before they got back together. So yes, that but I can't remember thinking, oh, let's do this because it sorts that problem out. I think the most difficult of them to write was Freed, because there's a thriller element in it, and Christian knows things far sooner than I had to just make sure I could time all of that.
Timeline worked.
Yeah, that was like a huge jigsaw puzzle, but fun to do.
a lot of authors really struggle once they hit success. And I don't know that there's another author in the world. There are very few that have ever reached the level of success that you've reached. But, imposter syndrome, or this like
completely.
paralyzed,
Oh, yes.
yes. Not there's imposter syndrome, but there's so much expectation with your next book. So when you wrote, you had written the first 3 books. So thankfully, I mean, you didn't have that pressure on you when you were writing those. But when it came to writing Christian's point of view, were there ever, did that hamper your creative process, knowing there was all this weighted expectation?
It didn't. No, it didn't. I wrote Grey in such a rage. It was good, and that's Christian's so angry. It's quite funny. So it sort of fitted they fit each other very well, and I know them very well, the characters. I got to know them very, very well over that process. So so that was fun. I think with writing something that isn't in the 50 Shades sphere, and I've got so many ideas that I just like to get on with. That's more challenging, I think.
Yeah, moving outside. And I wanted to show, you talked about you wish you'd kept them apart. So Michael said Christian would not have been able to handle more time apart, which I love. And Sarah said, yikes, I don't think us readers could have endured 4 weeks of torture.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm glad you think that. Yeah, it was pretty torturous for the 2 of them.
Yeah, it is. There's like how to, stretch out the story or whatever, but there's also the reader experience. And I think you really nailed that. One question that we've gotten a lot of is, is there going to
the 4th part of the trilogy?
Yeah. 50 Shades Part 4.
I hadn't planned to do one. And I just say, whatever I say to people when they say this is never say never, but I've left them in such a good place. Yeah. I just think it would be unfair, because I'd have to disrupt it terribly to make it interesting for me to write it. And so I think let's just leave them with their happy ever after for now. So I'd say never, but it's not, I haven't seriously considered it. And I've got kids now, and I've had children.
Well, that was one of our pre-submitted questions from readers, is where are they? It's been 10 years, right? So if we went 10 years, what does their life look like?
If I do write the 4th book, I can't tell you. So because it will be #spoilers, and so no, I'm gonna say I'm just gonna plead the 5th.
Yeah, someone said, I love the ending. I don't think there's any reason to go further. And
thank you, Facebook user.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're showing up as Facebook user, it's because there's a link that you can add your name. Someone, Mayas, asked, have you ever thought about doing the sibling stories?
Not really. I mean, people have asked me about that. I think that I'm just not as interested in the other characters, although I adore Elliot. I think he's great. And Christian adores Elliot as well, and really admires him. And that's the one thing that I got out of Freed, was Elliot's character, just his kind of devil may care kind of thing. So yeah, no, I haven't thought about it. I've got lots of other stories I'd love to write. I have one whole book written, but it needs another book, and I've got to write the other book to this. And I had an amazing idea while I was down at my beach house, and thought, I want to do this. It's just finding the time and the the willpower to sit down and do it. So I'd really like to write some more stories.
Another funny comment from Andrea said, Christian with the kids would be fabulous. Talk about lack of control.
I did think about doing an outtake, actually, about Christian and his son when he's a baby, because I can't imagine Christian ever changed a nappy or anything like that, because they've got help, and Anna was having none of that. but then you have to think about Christian's origins, and people who have had really, really grim origins tend to be quite hands off with their children for lots of reasons. So that's something I've toyed with, where she goes out and leaves them with the kid and said, no, I've given everyone the night off. You've got to look after your child. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever write that. Maybe not. We'll see.
Before we move off the anniversary copy, are you going to be doing similar editions for the second, third book?
Yes, okay. yes. They come out. I think they come out in August and October, and we've even got the front cover of for 50 Shades Darker, and hopefully 3 very shortly.
Perfect. You just mentioned talking about like you want to write another book, finding the time. So I can't imagine how much your life has changed in the last 10 years, from when the first books. But what's a typical day for you now? Do you have time to write? Are you constantly busy?
I'm trying to. I'm of the age where I have aged relatives that I'm taking up a lot of my time, and very independent and stubborn 90-year-old women. I hope my aunt's not watching this. Don't see this, auntie. Anyway, so yes, so that's taking up a lot of my time. I started writing a sequel to The Mister back in November. Then Christmas happened, and then we got COVID. Both my husband and I got COVID because everybody in London has COVID at the moment. It's unbelievable here. It really is. And the government's just sort of walked away and said, right, you're all going to get COVID, and that's how we're going to deal with it, which is not great. So yes, just finding time in between all of life getting in the way, and I'm really trying to, and also because of what I was talking about, the process by which I'm doing it. I'm writing it in a totally different way to how I have written the other things, which is just sort of go for it. I need to hit certain things because of what I've set up in the first book, and I've left them in Albania of all places, and that's awkward. #awkward. So I may have to go back to Albania and have another look around.
So when you wrote the first trilogy, when you wrote the famous trilogy, I mean, it was originally you were publishing it and writing it as on fan fiction sites, right? So were you publishing it as you went?
Yes.
Or okay, so and then
published as I went. I had no idea what was going to happen.
And so you didn't know. And so were you ever putting yourself in weird places where you then had to, like, were you writing yourself into a corner that you occasionally had to
there were 2 corners that I wrote myself. Well, there weren't really corners. There was one thing I had to write 4 times before she didn't leave him. And that was when she came back from, they went for dinner at his parents' house. And that scene there, I had to write it 4 times before she didn't go. She just thought, I've had enough of this. And then the other thing was, oh God, it's gone out completely out of my head. What was the other thing? No, this is what happens when you're nearly 60.
What happens at all ages. And the dog is real, so I can tell you, I blame everything on that.
What was the other thing? It was like, oh God, that's so annoying. I'm sorry, I've just forgotten what I had it there, but it's just gone.
Are there scenes you wish that you had not had in the book, or scenes that you wished later that you had added in? I guess if you wanted to add it in, you could have added it in with this edition.
No, I've made things just slightly a little clearer. That's all in this edition. No, I was actually, this is where I've just remembered what the other thing was. Where there was one bit where in 50 Shades Darker where he doesn't respond to emails and things, and she says, "Oh, where is?" And I was there thinking, well, what has happened to Christian? And I did the helicopter crash. I decided that in the middle of all of that. So that was 3/4 of the way through that chapter. Thinking, well, where is he? And actually, it fitted in with lots of other things and showed them both how his family did adore him and blah blah blah. So it actually fitted in perfectly. So it was kind of weird that it all sort of fell into place.
It's amazing because I've published as I wrote, and I had to go back and do so much cleanup afterwards when I wanted to publish it as a book, because my mind was squirreling, and you could tell, you know, it was like, why did you spend 9 chapters talking about this thing that never ended up becoming anything? So it's amazing how much
I think because all you have is what's gone before.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, during that time, I made 3 massive continuity mistakes, which was great because people picked them up for me. So and I can't even remember what they are now, but they were just something. And also writing in American as well, as I'm British, and that's hard. So there was one thing where the baseball analogy, and rather than we have fourth base here in the UK, we don't have home run.
Oh, okay.
So I'd written that. So yeah, I got a lot of grief. It was very handy.
Talking about scenes, Tiffany from YouTube said, what's one scene in the books you wish was included in the movies? And now you had a great deal of input in the movies, right? So you might not.
Yes, well, allegedly. The first film was very difficult because the director wanted to make a BDSM art house movie, and she didn't want them to kiss or anything. There would be no kissing. It was like, really, she didn't want the elevator scene. I'm amazed we shot it actually, but we did, and it ended up in the thing. She didn't want that scene. She hated it. I think that my concern about the first film was that the book is essentially about a person who ceds up all of his control and starts all of his rules and starts doing things differently, and you don't get that from the film at all. So what scene would I have liked in? I wanted to put the ice cream scene in, and actually we did that in the reshoots for 50 Shades Freed. We managed to put it in there. I just wanted to get Dakota and Jamie really messy.
Yeah.
That was me being evil. So yeah. So
Jamie, Miss Joel said, when you first met him, did you instantly know he was Christian?
I think at that time he had been cast. So he was at. It was the interesting thing about that was that there were loads of people that Samantha had put forward, and she really wanted to work with Charlie Hunnam. And I met Charlie. I thought, Charlie, it's not physically how I see Christian at all. And then I saw his audition. I thought, oh, hello.
Maybe this could work.
Yeah. Oh, hello. Oh, this is very interesting. And he was very good. And then for whatever reason, he decided that it wasn't for him, or rescheduling or what have you. And then Jamie came in. I was just really grateful that he was prepared to. I mean, Jamie's lovely. He's you know, he's a good actor, and he's a sweet guy, and he's very easy on the eye. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and they were fantastic together.
They were really good.
KH said, what I missed most of the movies was their email interactions, which I imagine was probably pretty difficult to put on screen.
It is very difficult to put on the screen, and I think it was interesting because there were various proposals. Most of when we went and visited, there were various studios who did various things, and one of the studios had done a thing, and they actually did put the emails up. And I think if you have enough imagination and good effort, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So there we go.
Yeah, there's so many things I think that were special about this book, and the email interactions was one. You did a great job of showing communication and connection in a lot of different areas, and there were a lot of areas I as a reader hadn't seen before. One of those areas obviously being sexual, and that ties in well to a pre-submitted question we had from Sanal. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but she said, just like lots of other readers, I was also new to erotic reading when I first picked up 50 Shades of Grey. The subject of sexuality has always been a taboo one for our society. When you first started writing the books, had you thought about or known, I'm sure there wasn't a way for you to know, how they would create a kind of a revolution in the erotic reading world, or how ladies would be more open with their needs and wants after reading your book? How was all that for you?
It's weird because actually the sex is actually part of their story.
Mm-hmm.
I've written one story that doesn't have any sex in it, and I'm thinking, oh God, I'm never going to get away with that. But I'm going to try, because they're young. It's a YA thing, but it's how they communicate, and I think that's you nailed it at the beginning. It was very, very important
Yeah.
for certainly how he expresses himself. She caught up quite quick. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah, she held her own well. She did
held
great
her own.
considering. Yeah.
She held her own throughout all of that, and that was one of the things that for me that was really interesting, is that I knew she was far stronger than he was from the get-go. I mean, I got to know them as I wrote it. I knew she's not called a Steele for nothing, yeah, that the sex scenes just happened because that was a part of their story. I think
you couldn't have painted it to black on them without minimizing,
Yes, I mean there are occasions that I do, and I just thought, no, I'll leave them to it. And also, I don't want to write another sex scene because there's so many already. But
I can't even imagine.
so exhausting my repertoire. Darling, can we try this? What? My husband's sorry, that's too much information. So yes, it was. Yeah, I think it was an important part of their story, and how they communicate. And it's the only way that this man understands intimacy. So yeah, it was fun.
But you weren't, I'm assuming, expecting it to take off the way it did, but also to really, it changed just public conversations. I mean, I had never had a conversation with my girlfriends about sex prior to that, and certainly not anything that was at all wild about sex. So I think it was incredibly powerful for just opening up conversations, both with in the public, but also privately with your spouse, which was really really amazing. I'm sure you didn't set out to be the,
No, absolutely. And that's the thing I keep telling people. It's not a how-to at all. It's not a how-to. It's not a how-to. It's just these two people's relationship. And yeah, it did open up a conversation, and I honestly, I didn't mean to. I think that's what I would say to that. I did not know that it would be as successful as it's become, and I mean, that's one of the reasons we've got a 10-year edition, because it's still selling. I mean, who hasn't read this book? So so yeah, it was shocking to me, actually. At the time, I was so surprised at how popular it became, and I think that's what I feel one of my proudest achievements is people forming book clubs and talking to each other and getting people to read and all of that, and then the emails started pouring in, and some of those were incredibly moving about the effects that these books had on people. So yeah, I thought I wanted to sell 5,000 books. That was my plan, and I was going to continue working in television. That was the plan.
So can we go back in time 10 years? So it's 10 years. You had a series. I mean, let's say 11 years. You had a series that you had published online for free. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you were approached by a small publisher that said, "Can we put these books in print?"
Yes.
And you still had a full-time job at this point in time?
Well, no, I didn't. I had a part-time job. I was working 3 days a week. So so it gave me the chance to write on the days that I wasn't. I was obsessed, and I used to publish a chapter twice a week, sort of thing. I was completely and utterly. I didn't watch any television I didn't go out for 2 years, and people said, "What do you do? What have you been? What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just doing this thing." and I was so invested in these two. I fell in love with both of them. Which I was also unexpected, and I wanted to see if I could get them together. So it took a while, but it was such a great time. And then I thought, oh, someone's going to copy this. And I thought the only way to protect it is to publish it. So I sent it to a couple of agents who went, this is far too erotic. And the Australian publisher was getting into original fiction and said, can we publish your book? And she kept coming back to me, and I eventually said okay. And here I am. So she hassled me because she sent me a contract, and I thought, I'm not sure about this. And I deal in contracts and things in television, so. But I thought, oh, and I went back to her eventually because she used to contact me about, I want to publish this, I want to publish this. And I said, okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to write the contract. And she said, okay. And that's where.
And when did it went viral while it was still with her?
Yes, it did. I think what happened was that it got into the Goodreads finals, and I think that was it. And it went crazy, and then that was in the November, just the day before New Year's Eve, in 2011. We got the first email from William Morris Endeavour, WME, saying the film rights available, and I just thought someone's having a laugh. This is ridiculous. So, and my husband is a screenwriter, so I sent this all to his agent. She's a book to film agent, and she actually became my agent as well. And she said, right, we're going to get you a publisher who can deal with the demand, and then we'll look at the film rights. And that's what we did.
I love that. I love that story. We've had so many great comments. And I love this one. I told my mom everything as I was reading the books. We even went to the movies every year they were released. My mother is not nearly that cool. So
that was so nice. My mom was great. She loved the books. She really enjoyed the books. And my mother is I talk about her in the past tense because she has very severe Alzheimer's, so which is terribly sad. But she loved them. She was ecstatic about the success, and I'm glad that she got to see it before she became very, very ill.
So when did you tell your mother did she know that you were writing it when it was Masters of the Universe?
I don't remember, to be honest. I think I took her the book and said, oh, I wrote this, and she read it and she loved it. And also my aunt, my dear 93-year-old, very stubborn aunt, very independent aunt, she loves it as well. And she is she's been a big fan and a big supporter. So my family were really cool about it right from the get-go. Even my children, who were sort of embarrassed, but it's something that I did, and that's, I mean, I chose a pen name because I wanted to protect them. And in February 2012, a journalist from the Evening Standard turned up on my doorstep and said, "Are you E.L. James?" I went, "Are you old enough to be out? Does your mother know?" He was about 12. Honestly, he was so young. Anyway, I told him I said, "I'm sorry, I'm not answering any questions. And go home. It's too late for you to be out." It was very funny. He was so young. God, that's another thing about getting old. Everyone looks so young. So yeah, that was it. I just thought, oh God.
I can't imagine. So you had already, I mean, your family and friends, your children, everyone was already aware. There wasn't like a coming out.
My friends weren't really aware, and that was a slow process. And oh, you're E.L. James. That's the thing happened. I actually remember my beloved cleaner, Christina, coming in. We were in bed, and actually she burst into our bedroom. She's Polish, holding the Polish edition. "This is you, Erica?" It was like, she yeah, it was funny.
I can't imagine. Also, because you have so many exciting moments like that, I would think you know, I mean, it's hard. You want to share, so what is, have there been any, I know there have been, but what are kind of some standout, really cool moments that have happened in the last 10 years where you were like, man, I didn't ever think I'd be able to do XYZ, or to meet someone? Were there any moments where you were just like, man, this is a really cool opportunity?
Yes, there were lots of them, and sadly I can't tell you all of them because they're just don't tell me about that. But people get really cross about that. So let me just think. I think it's meeting people like Melissa McCarthy and Jason Momoa. I met him. That was very exciting. He's very easy on the eye as well. All of these Hollywood types and what have you. That was fun, immense fun, and seeing bits of the book in the movies. Walking onto I mentioned this the other day. Walking onto the Canadian Broadcasting Company and seeing Charlie Tango, they're going, wow. That was something.
Yeah, seeing all
that was my biggest wow moment from the movies. Really, that was amazing. Yeah, there's so many. Just meeting Lionel Richie in the restaurant and stuff like that. You just think, oh, yeah. I tell you, one of the loveliest moments was when the Oscars were happening. They decided what songs to be included, and Universal hosted an evening where both Ellie Goulding and The Weeknd played, and I was able to be. It was a very intimate thing, and meeting Abel from that and he lifted the roof off the place, and so he got nominated, and that was really, really special. That was a lovely moment. It's these people who have riffed off your art, That's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, and totally humbling as well. And all of that stuff.
This is an interesting question. Natalie said, I recently heard, what they say about heard, this could be a totally fake rumor, though.
This is true.
This is true, that you went to an Audi garage to find out if there was
enough room
for the D. In the R8. What was that like?
Yeah, that was. I remember first telling this story to a huge cavern of women in Chicago who'd all been drinking, and it was quite racy. It was fun, but basically, I'd written this scene in the Audi where they have sex, and I thought, I hadn't written it. That's right. I rang our local Audi garage and spoke to one of the salespeople. Hello, I'm writing an erotic novel. Is it possible to have sex in an R8? And this guy says, no way can you have sex in an R8. No way. And I went, oh, okay. And I thought,
but I really need this to be possible.
And I need this in here. So I cycled. Audi West London is a huge, massive thing as you come into town on over the M4. Where I used to live. So I sidled in, and there was
an R8. You're a normal person right now.
I'm a normal person. I'm still a normal person. Trust me, I'm fairly normal anyway. And I wanted to. There's this amazing showroom, and the first car is an R8. And I sort of sidled up to it, and I looked at the reception. Said, "Can I sit in the car? Is it all right if I sit in the car?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And I sat down in this beautiful car. And I sat there and thought, you could totally have sex. So I went and rewrote the scene. But the funniest thing is I used to live near a football stadium, and I had a Mini one. And so I said to my husband, we just need to get the so I think if you're going to write a sex scene, it's all about the choreography. Where is everything, as it were? And I got him to sit in the.
And make sure we don't have too many legs and arms.
Absolutely. And where do they go? Where do your feet go? And all this kind of thing. So I sat on his lap in my Mini, like this tiny minute, and there was a football match, and all of these people were coming and think, what the bloody hell are those two doing in the car? And we go, it's just I mean, we weren't naked or anything. We were fully clothed.
You're like, research.
It's research. All of that was for research. So yeah, that is totally true. So,
Another question from Charlotte, and I saw someone else ask this: will The Mister be turned into a movie?
hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It's things are moving along, and when I've got things to tell you, I will tell you. But yeah, it's hopefully. I mean, you never know until the first day of principal photography. Oh yeah, we're making a movie. It's making
you don't
movies
believe
is
it's
hard.
going to happen. Yeah,
Absolutely. It's so many things can get in the way. It's amazing anything gets made, really.
I love that. Let's see. I'm looking through the questions from the pre-submitted. So Irma says, what challenges / pushback did you face, if any, when you decided to write in this specific subgenre of erotica?
I've had lots of pushback and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting because you just think this is their story,
Mm-hmm.
not anybody else's story, and I'm very very happy with that. So it doesn't have to carry the weight of any community or anything. This is what these two
This
people
two
do.
people's love story. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's nobody else's. It's nobody else. If you want to project your stuff onto it, that's your thing. So I was very, I think you can't carry other people's, stuff. I have my own stuff. I keep my stuff to myself. You carry your stuff. So I think that's what I would say about that.
What from Patricia, what is your favorite scene out of the trilogy? Is there a scene you almost removed but didn't? Or we kind of talked about that before, but do you have a favorite scene?
There are many. There are many, 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 many. I like when they have coffee and she leaves and she says, right, this is not happening, and you can see how much she's got under her skin then. I like that. I like the, oh my god,
I know the pressure of
it is. I'll tell you what, when I pick up this book and read it, I fall back into the story completely, and I just get carried away with it. So there are so many things. One of the things I really like is the conversation they have after she's safe worded and freed, when they really start communicating.
Yeah.
And I like from his point of view. I found that she pushes all of his buttons all the time through his things, thinking, why did you say it? And that's some of the times I'm thinking, why did he say this? And I had to try and find that. But yes, I it's those really intense and intimate moments, when she leaves at the end of book one, and she was leaving, and then there was only this much left to read. What's going on? I got lots of complaints.
Was the first. I think that was honestly because I always read standalone books prior to this. I think that was the first true cliffhanger that I ever, where I flipped the page and I was like, what? Like, and so I always
throw this against the wall. How dare you? It's Mother's Day. I've just read this on Mother's Day and you've left us here. I love that. I love that.
I love it too. I love this from Marina. She said, the movies were pretty awesome. Only thing I wish was included was Christian's growth with his therapist. Therapy was so essential, and Anna, to help Christian heal from its traumas. And I think he did a great job of showing all of the different elements and the healing growth.
Thank you.
This is an interesting question from a Facebook user. You used the name Trevelyan. Am I pronouncing that right?
Trevelyan. It's a good Cornish name, Trevelyan.
Yeah. In 50 Shades, and then again in The Mister. Does the name have significance?
Yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, basically, and this is the real thing. I wrote a version of The Mister way back when. It was just a quick thing, and the guy's name was Christian Trevelyan. And when I converted my fan fiction, I used the name Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't. Trevelyan is just it's. I just thought, let's call him Gray because it's easier.
Yeah.
and it helps
And
with
it
the,
worked out with 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey, because it's, this is not a black and white book. There's many shades of grey in it. So I couldn't then take Trevelyan away from the other guy. So that's why they share a name. Is there a connection? I don't think so, but never say never. I mean, I think it's Grace's family that have Cornish roots. So I haven't finished writing the list of part 2. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
One great question we got in advance was from Jenny, and she asked if 50 Shades of Grey almost had, were there any other potential names that did you have like a short list of book names and 50 Shades of Grey won out?
Was always, no. It was always going to be Christian. And because I love that name. I think it's a great name. I just think it's gorgeous and I just think it's a lovely name.
I'm sorry. I think she's referring to the book title, 50 Shades.
Oh, the book title, 50 Shades of Grey.
I know it's so far back.
He was 50 Shades of fucked up in there. That he says that. So that's why, that's where it came from. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yes. It was. I didn't want to call it what it was for fan fiction, which I took from a Tom Wolfe novel. One of these Master of the Universe types, and I think it.
It's
I
perfect.
just thought 50 Shades of Grey. It's kind of says it all. And I didn't really. It was different and catchy, and I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased with the title. It kind of caught on.
Yeah. I think other people were pleased too. Yes. So Margaret said, I'm curious to know if there's an author who influenced you to become a writer, and if so, have you been able to meet that author?
If you're talking about Stephanie Meyer, I have never met Stephanie, but she was certainly a big influence. I think she was the biggest influence. I read Twilight. Oh God, I wish I could read it again, for the first time. And I escaped into that world, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. But I read a lot of erotic romantic fiction when I was in my early 30s, traveling on the tube into town. People like Brenda Joyce, Catherine Coulter, Judith McNaught, Laura Kinsale. Laura Kinsale writes the most beautiful books. Who else? Joanna Lindsay. So there was this whole body of romance novels, which people have on their shelves now. You see them. Mine are all still in the loft. I actually used to leave them places, and I really regret that now, because I finished that one off because I read romance novels like nobody's business. It was my escape then. So all of these writers, extraordinary writers, who you just disappear into the world that they created. There's nothing like falling into a book and coming out the other side. It's such a fantastic thing to do.
It really is. Someone a different Facebook user said, "Will you come back to the PNW or Vancouver? And had you spent a lot of time in Seattle before you wrote this book?"
No. I've never been to Seattle until I went on book tour there, and I did all of the research using Street View, Google Street View, and it was very funny because we did a tour, and the guy said, "Well, what do you want to see? What do you want to see?" I said, "I want to see the 520 bridge." He said, "What?" I want to see that bridge. I could see it and it looks like it's floating on water. I wanted to see. And one of my other biggest surprises about going to Seattle is it's much hillier than it looks on Google Street View. So I didn't get that feeling while watching that way. Yes, I'd love to come back to the Pacific North. I love it, and also Vancouver. I love Vancouver. I lived there for 9 months of my life, and I lived on the 60th floor of the 61st or 60th floor of the Shangri-La in an apartment, and it was amazing. It was just one of the most beautiful places I have ever been. The people are lovely. The surroundings are lovely. There's great food, great shops, and I would go back there like in a heartbeat.
I've never been to Vancouver, but I
Oh,
love.
you must go.
Yeah, I need to. Miss Jules said, was the character of Christian based on anyone you know personally, or was there a celebrity, or did he just kind of come to you?
Christian, my husband's that. Christian's based on 3 people. Okay, 3 people. That's all I'm going to say. All right, that's
Okay.
all I'm going to say about that.
The combination of 3 people. I love that. It is time to wrap up. So we do have a winner. So for everyone who RSVP'd, you were entered to win a signed and personalized copy of the 10th anniversary edition of 50 Shades of Grey, which Erica has here. And so big congrats to Jean B. And so if your name is Jean, congratulations. Our team will reach out to you via email. And yeah. Oh,
I'm gonna throw this in. I was cleaning up and I found this rather attractive little keychain, which is what's my camera there? And it's got a little flogger and a little key and stuff. I'll throw that in as well.
Fantastic. And thank you for everyone who joined us. Thank you for your great questions and comments. It was so great to see them and to interact with you, Erica. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for hosting me. I've really, really enjoyed it. You're fantastic at doing this. So thank you.
Oh, so it's the best part of my entire year, I think, so far. The anniversary edition, if you have not yet grabbed your copy, again, signed copies are at Books A Million and also Premier Collectibles, which does ship internationally. So hurry if you're going to grab a signed copy. If you miss out on the signed copies, you can get unsigned copies at all major retailers. So keep an eye out for that. And please keep an eye out for future book club chats at bingebooks.com. You can visit the Discover section to find our book club events. And again, if you have not read all of the books, you have the 50 Shades trilogy, and then the other books that you have out, you have the Mr. and that's it for now, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm very slow.
For now, I know everyone has requested more. So thank you again, and we will see you guys at the next book club event on BingeBooks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.